Welcome to the Farmish Kind of Life podcast, where we talk about homesteading stuff and life stuff and everything in between. Join me, Amy Dingman, as we explore big questions on a little farm. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Farmish Kind of Life podcast. Today is January 8th, 2025. This is episode 303. It is the first episode of 2025. I hope you had a great start to this year. I hope you started off on the right foot. Today, I want to talk about something that we probably all need a little bit more of, which is simplicity. Now, I can hear you groaning. You're like, Amy, I know, okay? And this seems like such a cliché topic to start the new year off with, but stick with me because as you will discover when we get to the main topic, it's kind of ironic that we keep circling back to this all the time. Life has a way of getting cluttered. Our homes get cluttered, our schedules get cluttered, our thoughts get cluttered. And when everything feels like it's too much, it gets really hard to focus on what matters. So that's what we're talking about today. But before we get to that, what has been happening on the lifestead? Well, we have been busy here. We've been cutting a lot of wood. And the other day we decided, you know what? There is this tree in our yard that is half dead. It's a very big tree. It's a box elder or a Manitoba maple, I guess some people call it. But it's a very large tree. It's half dead. And it's one of those trees that you've been waiting for a storm to take down. Like every time you get a really windy day, you're like, oh, that tree's coming down. I just know that tree's coming down. But it hasn't come down yet. And we got done cutting wood and we took a look at this tree. And, you know, we've got our chainsaws. And my husband said, we really need to do something about this tree. It's starting to drop stuff all over the vehicles, and it's becoming not safe because it's very close to where we park. And yes, we could park somewhere else, but with snow coming, there are places in the yard that just make way more sense to park with plowing and all of that. So, okay, what are we going to do about this tree? Well, we decide, hey, we've got some time. You know what we could do? We could take this tree down. Yeah, we should just take this tree down. And so that's what my husband did. He took the tree down, dropped it very safely, dropped it exactly where it needed to drop. It was great. It didn't hit anything. And then the tree is laying on the ground. And I don't know if you've ever dropped a really big tree before, but a tree looks a lot bigger once it gets on the ground. And you realize, wow, there's a lot of wood in that tree, and now we have a huge mess to clean up. And so we were then very busy for a few days cleaning up this tree, cutting the tree up, splitting, all the very large logs that came out of it, burning the brush from the top of it. And we were trying to do that all real fast because, number one, you never know when the snow is going to come. We still don't have snow on the ground here in Minnesota. This is wild. But you know, if you're assuming you're not going to get any snow, then that's when the snow is going to come and you're going to bury everything in the yard with 5 feet of snow. And then you're like, great, now we can't even use this wood. Or it's like stuck and frozen to the ground and now we have a big issue. So we were trying to get it cleaned up because of that, but also because my husband was leaving on an ice fishing trip in a few days and he wanted, you know, as a responsible adult, he wanted to get it all taken care of before he went off on this ice fishing trip. So we got that done. We were burning the last of the brush when it was 2 degrees. It was a very cold night, but a very hot fire. There you have. I mean, the adventures we have on the farm. It's just awesome. Speaking of ice fishing and my husband going ice fishing, my husband is on a mission to get me to go ice fishing. Now, if any of you have been around here for a while, you know, I'm afraid of sea monsters, which is wild because I live in Minnesota, the land of 30 billion lakes. I've been on lakes my whole life. I know how to swim, but I don't know. I'm just not too keen about all the things that live beneath the surface of the water. And so then when you put a layer of ice over that water and you have there's the possibility of falling through the ice, right? Then we struggle with that a little bit. I used to ice fish all the time when I was little. I ice fished when we were first married, but for some reason, the fact that I haven't done it for a long time has just produced anxiety within me about this. But my husband is like, we're going to go ice fishing. And so I'm telling you that because I need you to send me all your well wishes and your bravest tips for how I am just going to get over being out on the ice again. And here's the thing that's really creepy. normally when we'd go out on the ice, like there would be snow on the ice as well, right? Because normally there's snow in Minnesota, so that like the ice isn't see-through. You know what I'm saying? Like there's snow on it. Maybe you've cleared the snow away a little bit, but you're not like looking through the ice to see what's underneath the ice. And right now, the ice is kind of see-through, y'all. And I just don't know. I know that I can do this because all I'm going to tell myself is, Amy, people do this all the time. People ice fish all the time. And they don't die. And they're smart and they don't fall through the ice. We're not going to do anything stupid. We're not going to take a truck out on the ice if there's not enough ice. We're not like, you see what I'm saying? See, I'm getting all panicky just talking about it to y'all right now. So stay tuned for that adventure. It probably isn't going to happen for a little while here because he's going to be gone and then there's work and all this. But eventually, maybe sometime in January, he's going to get me out on the ice. He keeps buying all this stuff. Amy, we're going to get you all set up for this ice fishing. And ice fishing is crazy because when I was little and we'd go ice fishing, we didn't have a fish house. We would just like walk out to a spot on the ice to go fishing. We'd carry our 5-gallon bucket that had our stuff in it, and then our 5-gallon bucket became our chair to sit on while we stared in this hole waiting for fish. And it was cold, you know, like to me, that's ice fishing. And now there's all this stuff that goes along with ice fishing. So we'll see what happens. Stay tuned because I'm sure it's going to be an adventure. What else can I tell you? I started some sprouts for my chickens because everything is dead right now, right? There's no greenery for them to enjoy. There's nothing awesome for them to eat. And so I normally will start sprouts for them in the winter when I remember. And I did that. I'm going to tell you how to do it. It's super simple. You take a half a cup of lentils. I have found lentils to be the easiest thing to sprout, but there's lots of different things you can sprout. So half a cup of lentils in a quart jar. Do not fill it more than that because what happens is lentils expand. So you're going to put those half cup of lentils in there and think, we could put more in there. Don't do it. So half a cup of lentils in a quart jar. For 24 hours, you are going to soak those lentils in water. So cover them up with water, let them soak for 24 hours just on the counter. And after 24 hours, you are going to drain that water out. And then for the next 5, 6, 7 days, depending on how warm it is in your house, depending on a lot of stuff, what you're going to do is you are going to rinse the lentils and drain the water out, okay? A couple times a day for 5, 6, 7 days. And you're going to see the lentils start to sprout. They're going to, get little shoots out of them. They're going to turn green. It's going to be awesome. And then you feed them to your chickens. So to clarify, the only time that those lentils are actually sitting in water is the first 24 hours. After that, you just rinse them and drain them, rinse them and drain them. Okay. My chickens were so excited when I brought out this first batch of sprouts. My ducks really don't think much of them. The ducks are like, what do you want me to do with this? I don't like, what is this? The chickens will inhale them. As many sprouts as I can give them, they just inhale them. They love the sprouts. I had a little bit of an issue because I let the sprouts go for 6 days, I think, and it was beautiful in the jar. It was just gorgeous. Like, look at all this greenery. It was almost starting to come out the top of the jar. I put a little, like a screen cover on the top of the jar, and so they're kind of coming out that. Well, the problem with getting the jar that full of sprouts is that they're real hard to get out. I'm trying to like pour these sprouts out and the chickens are getting very impatient. They're like, what is wrong with you? And I'm trying to get these sprouts out and they were like jammed in there. So maybe don't let them go until they're crawling out the top of the screen top that you've put on there. There you go. That's my update. All right, let's head over to the main topic where we are going to talk about something we very commonly talk about at the beginning of every year. But dang it, we always have to keep bringing it up, don't we? That is so crazy. So the irony is that most of us would say that we're after the simple life, right? Especially if you decide to do the homesteading thing, you're seeking the more simple life. And oddly enough, we sometimes find out that stepping into the simple life ends up to be just as crazy as those folks who seem like they're purposely seeking a very complicated and chaotic and busy existence. We all deal with clutter, right? Clutter happens. And I don't necessarily mean that your closet needs to be organized or something like that, although, let's be honest, it probably does need that. But clutter can mean everything from a barn that's packed with more stuff than animals, to a to-do list that's longer than a winter's night, to a brain that's glitching out because there's so much stuff in there that you can't even wade through it all. We learn as we get older that more isn't necessarily better. And here's the thing that I really want to drive home with this episode. Simplifying isn't about doing less. Some people don't want to simplify because they're like, no, I need all this stuff and I need to do all this stuff and it's all important. Simplifying isn't about doing less. It's about making space for what matters most. So today we're going to talk about why less is more and how you can start simplifying today. All right, so clutter. We don't realize how much clutter weighs us down until we start clearing it out. And there's lots of different kinds of clutter. There's physical clutter, so that overflowing junk drawer that you have, right? That is clutter, obviously. And when you have a lot of physical clutter, it can make your whole house feel chaotic. There is mental clutter. So, all that stuff that's in your mind, all that stuff you're worrying about, all the things that are up there that maybe don't even matter, all those things that keep you up at night, that's mental clutter. And clutter makes a difference. Think about your barn or think about your garage, okay? If you have tools scattered everywhere, how long does it take you to find a hammer when you need it? How long does it take me to find a shovel when I need it? The shovel that I want to use? How long does it take me to find that when I need it? Way longer than it should, right? How long does it take you to find the part that you need? You're doing a project, you're like, I know I have that part. I know it's here somewhere. And then you think you don't have the part, so you order another one. And then after it arrives, you find the one you knew you had, but you couldn't find. I know I'm not the only person who has done this. Simplifying your space isn't just about neatness. It's about saving time and energy. I will tell you what, since we moved all of our animals to one building, barn chores go so much quicker now. Now that I'm not running between two different buildings trying to do all the chores, it's so much faster now. It's so much more organized. I have everything in one spot. It's so great. It saves me time. It saves me energy. It's awesome. When you think about simplifying, I think it's important to start with knowing what is important. When we first started homesteading, when we first got to the farm here, I felt like I had to do everything, right? And I think part of that is because you get really excited. You're like, oh, I'm at the farm and we have all this space. We have these buildings. We're going to fill it up with all the things. You get excited. You jump in with both feet and you go at it. You grow all the vegetables. You raise all the animals. You make everything from scratch. You process all the food, right? But the truth is you don't have to do it all. And when we try to do it all, that in and of itself is a kind of clutter. There is a principle out there that I've heard of called the hell yes or no principle. And it's kind of a game changer if you use it. So basically, if something doesn't light you up and make you super excited, let it go. Now, sometimes there are things that you have to do in your life that don't necessarily light you up. And this principle is not referring to that. What I'm saying is that if someone asks you to take in their problem animal or serve on the council at church or submit a piece for a community newsletter or drive them to work again or get together for cocktails, and you're not super fired up to do those things and you can't see a real point to it, then you're not fired up to do it and there isn't a real point to it. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no. That applies to projects and commitments. This principle even relates to relationships and even friendships that just aren't working anymore. Do you have those friendships in your life where you're like, actually, this is like, it's really difficult to get together. It's really difficult to connect. Sometimes holding on to friendships that have run their course is a form of clutter. I was listening to a book the other day, and it had this section on friendship, and it pointed out something so interesting that when we are younger, Friendship is easy because we're in school and we're with all these people all the time. And we know a lot about them because we're with them all the time, and we do school and we do sports and we do choir and we do plays and we do like all this stuff all together, right? And so they become our friends because we're always together. And then you become an adult and you assume that's how friendship continues. But as an adult, we keep going through all these life stages and we keep moving, and then we get married and we have kids and we have different priorities. And we want friends to stay friends through all of that, but it just doesn't work the same anymore. And so sometimes it's really, really sad, but you look at these friends that you're trying to connect with and you're trying to get together with, and it's just not working, and you're like grasping at them, trying to hold on. And sometimes there's a reason it doesn't work anymore. Have you ever had that experience where you got married and you had kids, and then you have friends who are not married and do not have kids, and they're still like living a party lifestyle, or they're still like going to college full time, and you're like, man, I have a mortgage and I got 3 babies, and like you're just in different stages of life. There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Everybody should live the life that they're going to live. It's just that sometimes we hold on to friends that we're not filling each other in the same way we used to when we were in the same situation together. Do you know what I'm saying? All of that to say, sometimes friendships have run their course, and trying to hold on to them is just a form of clutter. I hope that made sense. All right, so what are some steps, some practical steps to start simplifying or to continue simplifying? So physical space, let's look at that, because that's what everybody thinks of when they think about clutter. Start small. That would be my my advice. Don't try to tackle everything all at once. Tackle one drawer in your kitchen or one corner of your barn. Tackle one section of your closet or your dresser. If you've got a lot of physical clutter, tackle it little sections at a time. Otherwise, you're just going to get overwhelmed. And that's another kind of clutter, right? A friend and I were recently laughing about how, as homesteaders and people who basically work at home, we pretty much have 3 outfits we wear, like 2 different pairs of jeans and then 3 tops, t-shirts, sweatshirts, right? Like, those are our uniforms for the life that we live. So why do we have a closet full of clothes, like full of clothes? Why do we need all that? And yes, you need some outfits for when, like you're leaving the farm maybe, or you have something fancy you have to go to. But honestly, I could probably go through my closet and get rid of half of it. And I don't even have that many clothes. But literally, I go through a lot. I wash my laundry, and that's the pile that I work out of, because it's the same 3 outfits over and over and over again. Why do we have a whole closet full of clothes? Maybe it's time to declutter that. Something else that we can simplify, somewhere else that we have clutter, is our schedule. Look at your commitments just for this week. Like, look at this week, what's left of this week. Look at your commitments. Is there anything you can eliminate? Is there any way that you can free up one evening? Because even freeing up one evening can feel like a breath of fresh air. And maybe what can you eliminate doesn't mean, sorry, kids, you cannot be in piano, football, dance, and 4-H all at the same time. Maybe it doesn't mean that. Maybe what can you eliminate means taking out some of the fluff in your life. I am on a mission in 2025 to change the way that I use social media. Like, absolutely overhaul the way that I use social media. Not even necessarily in a business sense, but in a personal sense. I have really looked at social media in my life, what it means, what it doesn't mean, what it brings me, what it doesn't bring me, what it is a substitution for that's not working. And it's been really interesting to dig into that. And so I've had to really kind of take out some of the fluff, and I'm happier for it. And I feel like the connections I am making make a lot more sense and are a lot more awesome because the fluff is going away. Sometimes talking about eliminating stuff from your schedule doesn't mean you actually take stuff out. Sometimes it means you just reorganize it and stick it in there differently. So whatever clutter you're looking at in your schedule, find a different way to deal with it. Another kind of clutter that we deal with is mental clutter. So we're trying to make like mental space. Try a brain dump. Write down every worry you've got right now. Write down every task that's on your mind, and then organize them and prioritize them. This works so well for me because I'm a visual person and I just need to see it there. Like the act of writing it down helps, and then the act of seeing it helps. And sometimes just getting it out of your head is a relief. What I have recently found is cleaning out the mental clutter gives me space to deal with life. And sometimes you don't even realize the mental clutter is there. If you listen to last week's episode about all the stuff I realized about 2024 by looking through the camera roll on my phone and then all the realizations that came out of that, holy moly, y'all. When I tell you that after writing that all down and thinking through it, how much more clearly I could look at my life and then make decisions based on those realizations is kind of unbelievable. It is like a whole thing. I'm still having realizations from that list that I made of all the things that I realized from looking through my camera roll. Insane. I cleared up so much space in my brain just by going through that. It was awesome. And that's the great thing, right? Because after you start simplifying one area of your life, it kind of spills over into others. Have you ever felt like when you clear the physical clutter, like you clean your desk off? Maybe you have a really messy desk and then you just have that moment where you're like, oh, I got to clean this up. And then you declutter your desk and you organize it. And then it feels like you almost have mental clarity to focus on what you're supposed to be doing. Has anybody else ever felt that, or am I alone here? Streamlining your schedule will free up time for what matters most, right? So you're looking at your schedule and you're kind of fixing things and putting things in different areas and taking things out. It frees up time for what matters most in the physical world, like family or hobbies or things like that. It makes me think of when we simplified our garden. You know, when we moved here, we were going to grow all the things. Everything, like any seed that existed, I was going to try and grow it, right? And any animal that we could fit on our farm, we were going to raise it. But then we simplified. We chose fewer crops to grow. We chose fewer animals. We figured out what actually worked for us, and then we focused on what we truly loved and what truly worked for us. And it made the entire process less overwhelming and therefore way more enjoyable. I know it's a cliche, but sometimes less really is more. And I know that this is a very common topic to talk about at the beginning of the year, right? I said in the beginning, this is like totally cliche to choose this as the first topic for the new year. But it's crazy because what we really need to do is take this topic and revisit it in April and July and October. Because we talk about this at the beginning of the year, and we do really good at the beginning of the year because it's new and it's fresh and I'm going to change my life, right? And then life gets busy. And we forget that it's still really good advice the end of March or the beginning of August. And maybe that brings up a whole different problem because we talk about topics like this at the beginning of every year, and we're always wondering how we can be more organized and less stressed and how we can stop being bogged down by stuff and mental yuck and all of that. Let me repeat that because you probably didn't catch it. We're always wondering how we can be more organized and less stressed and how we can stop being bogged down by stuff and all the mental yuck, which means we're never fixing the problem. We keep talking about this, but we're never fixing the problem. Simplifying isn't about doing without. It's about focusing on what matters most. And if we can really dig into clearing the clutter, and I mean the physical clutter, the mental clutter, the emotional clutter, whatever's all up in there that is making it harder to do whatever you need to do, when you clear all that clutter out, you're going to make space for what truly brings you joy and fulfillment. That's what I have for you today. Thank you for joining me here at the Farmish Kind of Life podcast. I hope you are inspired today to take one small step toward simplifying your life this week. Until next time, keep things simple, keep things farmish. I am so glad that we got to hang out together today, and I will talk to you again soon. Hope you enjoyed the show today. To continue the conversation, visit our website at afarmishkindoflife.com. Find A Farmish Kind of Life on social media or drop me an email at amy@afarmishkindoflife.com. Peace, love, and bacon, y'all. Stay farmish.